and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so tonight we're going to start with a public meeting on the 24-25 tentative master agreement.
So we had a good bargaining session with members of NADA who participated. So thank you to Jason Egley, Melissa Kelly, Craig Lohr, Ben Fawbush, and the IST Uniserv representative Sue Ellen Sofer. And then on our team were Tiffany Heine, Beth Quinn, and myself. So this year, as you know, we are in the second year of our biennial budget, and there was going to be a lot less new monies put toward education. So a lot of school systems are not seeing significant raises this year because of that increase in monies. And with our situation sometimes of not knowing what might our enrollment be, we can sometimes have a declining enrollment. Sometimes it stays more stagnant. We were very lucky this year. It's gone up some, so we're happy about that. I've known for a couple years that this year was coming, so we needed to make some plans for it. I'm very happy to report that some of the decisions we made, like doing the On My Way Pre-K and CCDF vouchers, has helped take quite a bit of pressure off the education fund last year. So we were able to come up in working with Chad Blacklock with a lot more money than I think folks were expecting us in order to give a pretty reasonable, I think, raise this year. So starting out, we always kind of end up sharing with each other, both sides, kind of what our goals were for bargaining. And for the district side, I have been sharing with you kind of where we are with some of our different salary milestones and compared to area schools that I feel we compete with for staff. And so I felt it was very important we get to at least $43,000 as a starting salary. Right now we were at $40,800. SEBT also, we voted last week, or the governing board of SEBT, or insurance our trust, voted that premiums would raise by 3%. Knowing that, because we have been able to stay neutral in our insurance premiums the last 3 years, which has been great, certainly not what the market overall has been seeing with insurance. Knowing we were going to have to address an increase in premiums, I really wanted to try to make our high deductible family plans much more affordable. Sometimes our family insurance plans have proven to be cost prohibitive to recruiting staff. And so I really wanted to make at least one of those plans a lot more affordable. Again, comparing different salary schedules with area schools, I knew we needed to work on not only our starting salary, but those early and mid-range salaries as well. And then there were a few language considerations. There were some things about attendance and leave time that I wanted to talk about, and we had a couple language things that Herb wanted us to change, and we were able to do that. As far as NADA goes, North Adams Teachers Association, their goals were, again, to improve base salaries of staff and to address insurance premium increases, that 3% increase. Just as a reminder, when you go through collective bargaining, there's a couple rules you have to follow when it comes to compensation packages. So there's 5 factors that you can attend to. You have to do at least 2 of those 5 factors. You can address either teacher's experience and relate that to some type of compensation equivalency, getting an extra degree or certification, the results of an evaluation, the assignment of some type of leadership role, or what they call an academic needs differential for the school corporation. What makes this a little more complicated is that if you use experience or education, that can't count for more than 50%, those two together, of any raise you would give. So sometimes that makes that a little complicated. So for our factors and eligibility and distribution, this has been not necessarily anything different. We say you have to have worked for the corporation at least for 120 days in 23-24, the previous school year, or have been on leave, such that NPERS would say that's a qualifying year of experience credit. have to be currently under contract, and had to be effective or highly effective, because again, state law says we cannot give a raise to someone who needs improvement or ineffective. And so for this year, where we ended up, we had linked being effective or highly effective in your evaluation last year to receiving $800, gaining a year experience as being linked to $300, and then the academic need differential we defined as the need to retain staff based on their current salaries. And so basically what we did was grouped everyone by the salaries they were currently making, came up with kind of where the stair-step plan would be if we had to hire someone new, and base that on a year experience. And it kind of naturally came to some breaking points. And then when we established what each tier in that stair-step would be, then we basically said, so between the 800 and 300, if you were eligible for that, what else would you need to get up to what that level would say you were at? So breaking it down, we did get to $43,000 starting salary, so very happy about that. I'm not saying it makes us the highest in our area, but it certainly keeps us in the pack and a little more competitive. As far as our raises go, we had 14 staff receive between $1,100 and $1,499. 8 staff received between $1,500 and $1,699. 42 received between $1,700 and $1,799. 26 between $1,800 and $1,899, 13 between $1,900 and $1,999, and 19 received over a $2,000 raise. So again, I'm very happy with that. I think we had many of the district that were able to receive, again, a very, what I think is reasonable and nice raise. All in all, that salary increase, once considered also the deductions we would have to pay for, the cost to insurance, and I'll talk a little bit more in a moment about insurance, as well as what that would do to our increase in cost on our ECA schedule, because remember that is based on first-year teacher salary now, so that automatically increases those expenses. That was about just over $305,000. Insurance, again, one of our goals was to try to make a family plan much more affordable, which I think we did. Looking at the family plans there on that slide, we did not give any extra money toward the network, the PPO family plan, or even the PPO plan for the network single. So those staff kind of absorbed that 3%. What we did do is pay the additional 3% of our part of the high deductible plans. On the high deductible 1 family, we threw in an additional $1,200 per plan. And on the network 2 family, we threw in an additional $888 per plan. So if you see there at the end, those folks who are taking a high deductible or who will choose to take a high deductible when we have open enrollment in November, will actually be saving $40 if they're on the high deductible 1 family pay, and about $26 if they're on the high deductible 2 family per pay than what some of those folks are even paying now. So I'm hoping that helps get us in a situation that it is a much better, from a financial standpoint, option for some of those families. We don't have a ton on the network family. I think we have 11 right now. If even 3 would move, we calculated that would be a savings to the district of almost $15,000 to $20,000, and again, quite a bit of money for those families to either keep, or we are having the benefits coordinator from SEBT come in on November 1st on our flex day and meet with all staff and share with them if you would want to make the switch to a high deductible or have a high deductible, how you might be able to use a health savings account. If you were especially going to switch between the network plan and the high deductible, how to use that and maximize your dollars. On the network single, again, we didn't really do a whole lot to do extra support on that plan, but on the high deductible 1 and 2 for singles, we did split the increase in premiums the district did with the employees. So while they are paying a little bit more per deduction or per paycheck, if you will, it's not exorbitant. It's $5 for one, $4.50 for another. So again, when you're looking at a 3% increase, that's not not terrible. For those on the dual credit plan, which is where we have spouses, we did increase, they agreed to increase their contributions by 1%. So if they were only paying 1% of the annual premium, they're now paying 2% of the annual premium. And again, that's just helping kind of move around the dollars that are in that pot of insurance money to try to help recruit and retain staff. When it came to sick leave, we did talk about potentially reducing, the district proposed this, the amount of sick leave, because I think years ago, there were sick leave days added on years perhaps when there wasn't money for a raise, and when I compared that to area schools, we do have more paid leave time than lots of our neighbors. NADA wasn't really in favor of that, and I understand, but we did work out, I think, something that is going to accomplish all of our purposes, and so where we landed was a lot of our staff, the vast majority of our staff do not abuse sick leave at all and have quite a bit go unused. But for those staff who may not be abiding by that, we put in language that allows their supervisor to request documentation from a healthcare provider if they show a pattern of absences, miss more than 3 consecutively, or reach a point where they have 8 undocumented days, which means a leave day that they didn't have an excuse for their family, if they took a family health leave day or jury duty or whatever the case may be. So again, it just allows us to ask more questions and link it more with accountability and the evaluation system if someone might be one of the few that might be abusing those days. Let's see. Some of this was more, I created this for NADA too, to go over with the staff, so I provided some examples of things to be aware of that could be considered abusive leave days. And then the last one was, we had a resolution here from the board, and when I talked to Herb, they said that was fine, you had it, but it really needs to be in the collective bargaining agreement once you've created it. So we've taken that language and moved it to the collective bargaining agreement under the verbiage of supplemental payment. Here's that 50% thing. If we did not put it under the verbiage of supplemental payment, then those folks who receive that $3,500 bump for those eligible master's degrees, that would probably send us into a non-compliance on them, because that would be more than 50% of something linked to their education. The new legislative language that happened here in the last year allows us to have some discretion on something called supplemental payments, which basically we can give those to whom we wish for a lot more reasons without a lot of guardrails on it. And so that's why it has on the end, it was not bargained, because supplemental payments are not bargainable, but it's for informational purposes so that it can at least be referenced more easily. So that was the whole of our master agreement. Again, we had 2 bargaining evenings. Didn't go crazy late on either one, so we think we're very happy with where things ended. So this is the public meeting where you folks can discuss, ask questions. NADA did, as an organization, ratify it at their meeting last week. So the next step will be at our November board meeting, and as long as there's no questions outstanding, concerns outstanding, would be the ratification of the board at the November board meeting. So do you have any questions? It's a lot of information, a lot of spreadsheets.
I'm glad it went smoothly.
It's always better when that goes smooth.
Yes. Any questions on anything? Okay. So we'll close this portion of the meeting and open up the regular meeting for public comments on any agenda items at this time. And with none, we can move on to our consensus items.
Okay, a couple points I wanted to make of changes that were to the original agenda. Again, the folks that were at the September executive session, we're going to table those minutes approval because we do not have quorum of the folks who.
Now we have to remove August 13 regular and executive without.
And we're tabling the August 13th board and executive session minutes again because we don't have quorum of the folks who were in attendance.
Originally
They-
authorized and
yes.
approved it.
Okay.
So I guess all we're really approving are the September board meeting minutes at this point, regular board meeting minutes.
September 10 regular and executive,
Okay.
no September 19.
Okay.
And we do want to wish one of our staff members who got good news for the opportunity to become cancer-free. We wish them the best and certainly have our thoughts and prayers with them. And I want to put in a note about 1 through 5 in that section. We do have 5 maternity leaves upcoming this year. Anyone looking for a long-term subbing opportunity? But we wish those folks the best too. They're all very excited and we're excited for them, so great.
That's good. Okay. Any questions or comments or anything additional on the consensus items? A motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the consensus items with the adjustments as presented.
Motion by Michelle, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Eric. Motion by Michelle, seconded by Eric to approve the consensus items as presented with the changes with the minutes. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Doesn't look like we have any program update or old business, so we can move on to new business. First up is a public hearing of additional appropriations.
So you'll need to suspend this one.
Thank you.
This is gonna happen 3 times tonight.
So we'll suspend our current meeting and open the public hearing on additional appropriations.
Okay, so this is something we try to avoid just because it's a lot of work to do it, but this is kind of a situation where the legislation changed as far as where bond payments are made and when bond payments are made, and we have some bond payments that are spanning the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things. So Beth is probably the best person to explain this to you, but this is what she explained to me and it kind of made sense, so I'll try. Historically, when we paid bonds, we paid our payments in both January and July. The DLGF wanted those to match more of the times when we actually received property tax disbursements, and so they changed it to June and December. Well, we have 2017, 2018 bonds that are still being paid in January and July, and now we have these new bonds that are being paid presently in in June and December. Beth received a payment for our 17-18 bonds, or an invoice, that said due in January. Well, so she paid them in January, and then they said, no, you need to pay them in December.
Okay.
Well, we had the money to pay it, of course, that's not a problem, but we didn't have an appropriation to pay it, which is the permission to pay it given by the state. So that's why we have to have this additional appropriation to give us permission to spend the money we have to pay our bill a month, or probably a couple weeks earlier.
3 payments this year instead of 2.
Oh.
It's the peanut under the walnut shell.
So we only did one last year, or we'll only do one next year?
The new bond, no, we'll do 2 next year, but the bond just started.
Oh.
So that was the very first bond payment. So it'll right itself at the end of this year, and then we'll be on 2 next year.
Okay.
We hope.
You gotta love straddling new legislation, and we have another long session coming up, so who knows?
Okay.
So that's basic information, so we are asking for an additional appropriation of $446,000 or $446,400 for an additional appropriation.
Okay. Any questions or comments or a motion to approve the request for the additional appropriation?
Oh, you gotta close the public meeting, did you?
Spend the public meeting and then we'll
Oh,
have
I'm
a
sorry.
approval.
Okay,
It's
thank
all-
you,
I told
Scott.
this is a confusing one.
I need like a little flag coming. You're my little flag. Okay,
I
so.
think that's worse than all that.
Okay, so thank you. We'll suspend the public hearing and resume the board meeting. And now, is there a motion to approve the resolution for the additional hearing, or for the additional appropriation? Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Jill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Jill, seconded by Michelle, to approve the resolution for the additional appropriations. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Okay, 2025 budget resolutions.
So you're gonna have to open
This is
another
another
public
one?
hearing.
Okay.
I'm so glad you're here tonight.
I know, I was looking for it, and I'm like, I don't see it here. Okay,
The budget hearing.
okay. So we will suspend the regular meeting again, and we will open the public hearing on the budget resolutions.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through them all together. When it comes to the point of actually voting, you can vote on them together individually. Correct, Scott? Okay, so the first resolution that is part of every budget hearing is about adopting the 2025 CPF fund plan. So this is the part of operations budget that we use for our buildings, our maintenance, our grounds. And so for this year, the things that are listed on our CPF posting are refinishing terrazzo, continuing brick tuck pointing, our parking lot maintenance, updating some of our restrooms in the middle school, fencing as appropriate and as available, doing some concrete work in some of our areas, and carpet paint, things along those lines. So those are the things that were listed for our capital projects part of the plan. The second is the 2025 bus replacement plan. Again, this is what we use to pay for buses when we need to replace them. We did end up having to buy a new bus last year, if you remember, because of the tree and the windstorm. But we don't need any full-size buses, but we are going to purchase 2 white buses. Again, if you remember, we voted at a previous board meeting that we had one that hit a deer, or a deer hit it, I don't know which one. And so it was totaled, and then we are just, again, finding that we need another one because there's fewer and fewer drivers available for late night trips, and so having more white buses that coaches can drive, smaller teams especially, is just more helpful. And so that will be what we're asking for there. The fourth is basically appropriation and tax rates, and this one just lists all the different tax rates for our different funds and tax-based funds. And finally, a resolution to adopt the entirety of the 25 budget, and this just gives Beth permission to submit that to the state. So those are that's an overview of our budget submissions.
All right, so we'll suspend the public hearing and resume the board meeting. Any questions or comments or motions to approve the 2025 budget resolutions as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion by Michelle, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jill. Motion by Michelle, seconded by Jill to approve the 2025 budget resolutions as presented. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is the approval of the resolution to transfer funds from operation fund to rainy day fund.
So again, we work with Stifel Finance to help develop our budget. And when Chad was looking at our operations budget that we were proposing on the Form 9, he suggested that we, number one, cut that budget that we were going to put forth, because he said that's probably higher than they're going. to accept. And then we had some cash in there that we'd been holding on to because we knew we had a parking lot project and some other things happening and the roof project. And he said, I think you need to probably cut some stuff, which is what we ended up doing, cutting the roof money and transferring that to the GEO bond because we knew that was coming on. And then move some cash so that you are still gonna be able to do your parking lot project. But you're not gonna have the state think that you're holding on to too much money unnecessarily, even though we had it earmarked, it just wasn't able to be used yet. So right now, we have about $400,000 that is appropriated already in rainy day, and since that's appropriated, I think our parking lot project is coming in, at $250,000. So by moving this to rainy day, it accomplishes two birds with one stone. We don't have to go through an additional appropriation hearing because we already have it appropriated in rainy day, and it basically keeps the state from thinking we have an inflated operations that we were just holding onto this money to be able to do this project with. Anyway, because our parking lots are newish, but if we don't keep them maintained, they're not going to stay new. So that's what the request to move it to rainy day.
Weren't they talking about going away with the rainy day transfers at one point in time, or limiting the amount that could be, because there was concern over just that we're holding on, because at one time, anything that had an excessive budget could be dropped into there, if I understand correct, like our bus and
I haven't heard anything about that.
Okay.
So I don't know.
okay.
I think, again, upcoming, I think the bigger concern is going to be what they do with property taxes and how it feeds debt service and operations, more importantly. So that's the new. I can tell you our rainy day would not meet anyone's excess threshold of expenses. We have a healthy rainy day. We have the amount Chad says we need to have for a corporation our size with our revenue and expenses. So we are meeting what his standard is, but it's not, we're not holding cash just to hold it.
I guess I just thought, I know at one time they had talked about
Yes.
that, and then they had also, because of the concern, is like, well, if you have enough to drop into your rainy day, then we're gonna approve less on the front end.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of discussion about that, so.
It had been, that was,
Okay.
I think that was the topic of the day, of that day. Then they
Okay, all
moved-
right, perfect, I
they
just wanted to
moved
make sure I
their-
was understanding
their
it.
focus.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure that you can really, maybe in the state size, but I'm not sure that you can really have too much over there. I mean, it could get excessive, but
Yeah.
It could.
that's somewhere
things happen.
that's somewhere where we need savings.
It's an emergency fund. Again, we try to keep between 2.5 and 3 million in there, which is what we've been recommended to keep, again, with our cash flow and expenditures. And you have to understand, all it takes is one boiler going out and you're already over $1 million gone. Thank goodness we had it when the gym floor at the high school flooded. That's what we
Yeah.
paid for that out of. Insurance doesn't pay when you're in a flood fringe. So those are the things you keep it for, the things you didn't expect.
Make a motion to approve the transfer from operations to rainy day as presented.
Motion by Eric, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle. Motion by Eric, second by Michelle to approve the resolution to transfer funds from operation fund to rainy day fund. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next is the approval of the roof project bid.
So again, this is a project that we have moved to our most recent GEO bond that's in the 30-day waiting period right now, and we'll address it again in November. So we did have three bids come in, and just yesterday, actually. So excited to see that the high bid was Fort Wayne Roofing with $723,587. That is definitely within the range, on the low end of the range that we were expecting. Again, knowing that, that is going to allow us to not only do that and the concrete pad for the new ADA compliant platform and ramping system at the football stadium, but it will also enable us to pay for that ramping system altogether. So that all can get done as one project, and maybe a couple other smaller things there's some things with with our multipurpose room project, just some of the AV, like getting the TVs or the security cameras and things like that, that were going to be district required, on us as a district to get done. So I think that came in at a great rate, so we are going to be moving forward with that and getting that locked in, so that'll be a big piece of our roofing project done. It's a huge section.
Okay. Any questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a move to approve.
Motion by Jill, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Eric. Motion by Jill, seconded by Eric to approve the roof project bid as presented. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next is the approval of the 24-25 administrator contracts.
So I sent you an attachment with the information I provided about this. Again, I always try to do a comparison with area schools. Usually, that comparison's kind of already done for us. That wasn't the case this year, so I had to gather as much information from online contracts and things as I could for most of the positions. Again, we had some money available for raises. I wanted to make sure that our classified and our teachers got a big lion's share of that, but we still had enough left over to, I think, give our administrators, address some areas there that we needed to address. As I stated in there were a couple situations that we needed some, I think, equity addressed as far as way off for what their position was. And then after that, I always have a kind of a metric of performance, above and beyondedness, comparison, whether you're low or high for our area, kind of make my own rate and figure out a percentage of the available monies then to divide among. And so I did send you, again, the one I attached, not the one that was in the scanned, because we had left off that we put the business manager's position on salary to this year. And I needed somewhere that it showed that you folks approved that, because the auditors like to see business managers. That's one of the first things they always ask for, is all their credentials and where their salaries have been approved.
Any questions or comments or motion to approve the administrator contracts?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Eric, is there a second? Seconded by Michelle. Motion by Eric, seconded by Michelle to approve the 24-25 administrator contracts. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is the approval of the MOU between North Adams Community Schools and Teaching Candidate.
So we've done a couple different situations for our folks who are going to school and for whom we've hired to serve in the position as a teacher, but they are still working on their licensure. And so this is the third such candidate here. Basically, this person, again, is working in a special ed setting, doing all the things that a special ed teacher does, except the IEP work, because that legally has to be done by someone with a special ed license. But grading, lesson planning, data tracking, talking to parents, things like that, all that is the same thing. So what I worked with Scott to propose is something similar to what we've done with another one of those candidates. Basically, they get 2/3 of a first-year teacher's salary, which really isn't a whole lot different than long-term sub without a teaching license. What the benefit to them is if they need to be off because they're sick, their kids are sick, we have e-learning, they have a means for which to still get paid, even though they're still having to create sub plans and all that, because as a sub, you don't get those sick leave days or bereavement leave, personal leave, anything like that. So it gives them a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of leniency, a little bit of help, just to do what when life calls, because we're all going to get sick, or our kids will get sick, and it gives them the ability to do what they need to do. So the money isn't a lot different. It's mostly giving them a little bit of paid leave time.
Okay. Any questions or comments or motion to approve?
This isn't that, the same thing as
Step
we
up.
approved a few months ago
The step up.
for the
Adjunct.
adjunct teachers. That's it. This is different.
No, this is different. Adjunct, we are legally not allowed to use for special ed,
Special ed, okay.
folks that are in their process of getting their special ed license.
So this is similar to the one that we did approve though, a couple,
Yes,
for,
she's
through
just-
IWU.
Yes, she's
This
not
one's-
going through
Okay.
Indiana Wesleyan, but.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jill, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Eric. Motion by Jill, second by Eric to approve the MOU between North Adams and the teaching candidate as presented. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next up is the approval of the 25 health insurance rates.
So we kind of sort of forgot about this because since I've been in this seat, we have not had a change in health insurance rates. So we did for the first time in 3.5 years, so we have, you guys have to approve what those changes are gonna be. You have a handout that shows you that. So again, basically the difference is premiums for the total plan went up by 3%. On the administrative plan, the employee is paying now 2% instead of 1%. District picks up the rest. On the teacher plan, I kind of already went through that where we incentivized and threw a little more money at the high deductible family plans to try to incentivize that and make it a lot more palatable plan for those recruits and folks we currently have. The dual credit 2023, if you remember 2 years ago, I guess, it was October 22, we did have an addition for spouses who were hired after October 1st of 22, that the district would pay 60% of the employee contribution in addition to the district's contribution. The change for this year is the district going to pay 59% of that contribution, and the employee picks up is paying 41%. So district employee picks up 1 more %, district decreases 1% of that contribution. And then classified, didn't really do anything different on the PPO single and family plans. District just went 3% higher in what we had been paying. Employee picks up 3% of more of what they had been paying. On the high deductible 1 and 2, modeled that, mirrored that after the teachers. We split the increase in the premium between the employee and the district. And I want to say, under that plan, both of those high deductible single plans, the employee is paying less every pay than they would be now. Not exorbitantly less, but $3 to $5 less per pay. So that's even a savings, even though the premiums increased. And then on the high deductible family plans, we increased the amount by 2% that we were contributing as the school district. And so again, those are ending up being not as big a savings as the certificated folks, but they are actually spending less per pay as well. So again, right now it's between $6 to $10 less depending upon which plan and whether you're a 12-month employee or a 9-month employee. So again, besides the raises folks gave, if they choose that the high deductible plan is something that works for their family, and it doesn't work for everyone. If you have a lot of chronic or mitigating health issues, that's probably not the plan for you. But for a lot of our younger folks or staff who aren't having a lot of family health issues or personal health issues, again, I think it is something that can help us save money as a district so that we have more money to put toward raises in the future. And I hope the folks will see it also can be a way for them to keep more money in their pocket and use and leverage their money and maximize those dollars right now. So besides giving, I think, pretty decent raises to classified teachers, everyone across the board, several people are also experiencing a little bit more money through some decreases in insurance premiums, surprisingly, when we had an overall increase. So I am happy and proud of that too, and hopeful that it provides some I guess, relief in this age of inflation right now and cost of living increases.
Any questions or comments or a motion to approve the 25 health insurance rates?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Eric, is there a second? Second by Jill. Motion by Eric, second by Jill to approve the 25 health insurance rates as presented. All those in favor, now by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next up is the superintendent's report.
There is a lot going on here this month and next month. I should have written it in order, but I didn't. So, this Friday, one thing that we're really excited about is our elementary is having our first annual fall festival for our elementary and middle school students, and we're really excited about that. It's going to be in front of the main entrance to the elementary middle school from 6 to 8. They're going to have hay rides, a petting zoo, pumpkin painting, face painting, carnival games, caramel apples, and a free movie and popcorn. So I think it'll be a fun and free family event, so I encourage everyone with kids to bring them out. I think you'll have a great time. Parent-teacher conferences are also starting this week for the high school. We're having pizza with parents. If parents come and get some of their kids' teachers, I think at least 3 or 4, to sign that they talk to their teachers, they can they will get a free pizza
Nice.
for coming. So hopefully that will incentivize some folks to come in and talk to some of our high school teachers. Also that night, the high school guidance department is hosting their financial aid night for anyone who has a senior considering going to college. It's just good information about what you're going to have to do and information you need to start gathering. They do a great job. Elementary and middle school parent-teacher conferences are next week, October 16th, from 3:30 to 6:30. Elementary teachers have been scheduling those, so anyone who didn't get something scheduled and still want to come, we encourage you to just call the main office or get in contact with the teacher, and they'll be more than happy to get some time set up with you. Middle school is kind of doing a combination, depending on the grade, of individual scheduling and team meetings with certain students. So again, if you do have a question and you haven't been contacted, I still just tell everyone, reach out to your teachers or reach out to the office and they'll help you find what information you wish. Tomorrow at the high school is PSAT day, so all kids in grades 9 through 11 are taking the PSAT. Seniors are getting the day off because they've already done that, been there, done that, and took the SAT, or will be taking it for their own benefit upcoming. iLearn, so this year we opted into that 3 checkpoint plus a 4 summative test for iLearn, and I think our middle schoolers have already started that. Tiffany, what other grade, have all the grades been doing it yet?
All the grades have started. ELA was this week, and it was much quicker than we were anticipating, which we're happy about.
Great.
Holding that next week.
So we're excited to see what actual data we get back from this. We're still a little unsure what it's going to look like, but again, whatever we get, this is a test run as it's a pilot. About 480 schools in the state have opted in to do this pilot, and next year is when it really officially and legislatively takes hold. But we're really hopeful that with the extra testing going on, that we do get good feedback and good data to know how to do interventions and what kids we need to be working with and how. Armed intruder drill. So the first 90 days of school, we have to have an armed intruder drill for students, and the accidental one we had when we pressed the button too much was just great practice, let me tell you. It exposed a lot of questions, and it started great conversations. So our new SRO, Officer Elwell, we've kind of tasked him with taking over a lot of the armed intruder stuff and working with the principals, and so he created some educational materials that the teachers have already kind of gone over with their classes and their students, and a lot of them were tabletop type things about what would you do if this happened and when might that change. Again, focusing on Alice and the run, hide, fight, run, hide, counter language. Very differentiated. Younger kids got different verbiage and different, more like bad guys. If a bad guy comes, what are you going to do? More cartoonish, but still, if it happens, they need to be prepared as well. So anyway, this tomorrow, and we are not going to be doing anything with any sirens or anything because the high school is testing. But tomorrow, the middle school and elementary are doing a kind of a drive, a walkthrough where it'll just be over the announcements and they will practice their lockdowns and practice next steps and then have some debriefing on it. On the 11th, this Friday, the high school is having the same thing happen. Veterans Day Program and Career Fair, we are combining them this year on November 8th. The Career Fair will be in the morning, and then we're having our Veterans Day program in the afternoon at 1. So I think we have over 80 different representatives from businesses,
Nice.
colleges, and organizations in our community, and it's grown to take up the entire main and auxiliary gyms. So that's always a well-attended event. Our guidance staff and high school staff do a great job of putting all that on and getting that organized. It kind of got a fine-tooth comb. This is the first year that for senior graduation requirement, they have to have a career discovery meeting, and we can count our career fair because we prep our students on and give them questionnaires. They need to talk to different businesses and representatives that are there, so that will count as their graduation requirement for that. So this is not an optional day.
Nice.
This is one of those days everyone needs to make sure they come. And then if you have a veteran that would like to attend our Veterans Day program, Mr. Lineberry and our Social Studies Department and Topics in History class do a great job on our Veterans Day program. So anyone who would love to attend that, it's open, and it will be around 1 o'clock at the high school theater. Let's see, our next Flex Day is November 1st, so no school for students, PD for the staff. Last week was National Custodian Day, and we want to say thank you to our custodians. I still owe them pizza, which is going to happen sometime this week. It might be a surprise day, I don't know. And it was also school lunch week, and I want to give a big shout out to our food service gals, and Mrs. Stewart, and all the ladies that work in the kitchen do a great job of trying to come up with new and better ways. Number one, they save our families a lot of money by really trying and pursuing any avenue they can to be able to offer free breakfast, free lunch for our elementary and middle school. I think our high school, they have paid for free breakfast out of their own revenue for the high school to have free breakfast for the last couple of years. So they're also doing right now a new program through the USDA called Farm to School, where there are local farms in Indiana that basically schools are able to buy produce or meat from, and then they have recipes of making fresh things. So I know they've done some, I think, something recently with pork. I know there was a farm in Jasper they got pork products from recently, and creating some lunch for that. And I think they're planning on doing some family style meals, she was telling me. So they always try to do some creative stuff. And then we're doing a new thing, and I'll probably talk about this again in November, but I still think it's fun, and I'm really excited to go over and see what it looks like. But yeah, November 22nd, I believe, we are doing a new senior event, and it's a breakfast with grandparents and seniors, and I'm really excited for that. I think our grandparents will really appreciate that, a special moment just with they and their senior students to get to hang out and have a memorable event with them. And so I think that will be really fun for them. And then, as always, if you're interested in being a substitute or a bus driver, there is always a need. I think that's it.
It is a lot.
October is a busy month.
Okay, any other matters to come before the board?
I was just laughing because my mom's gonna freak out about that seniors.
Be excited.
She'll be here like that.
I think it'll be cool. I think
Yeah.
I'll really enjoy it.
Any board member or public comment? All right, well, adjourn the meeting, thank you.